In the stillness of the night, the city lights of London sprawled across the pavement like twinkling constellations, casting their glow through the sleek glass of the imposing Whitmore Tower. In the office on the top floor, Oliver Whitmore remained still, cradling a glass of amber-hued whiskey. His eyes wandered, locked onto the illuminated streets, while his thoughts meandered back through time. Not long ago, his existence was marked by a continuous series of triumphs, a journey adorned with accolades and ease. Having grown up in a joyful household, Oliver once held the belief that love was the most exquisite and lasting force in existence. He had loved with all his heart, placing his complete trust in her. Yet Isabella, the woman he had once envisioned sharing his life with, had deceived him in the most heartless manner. He recalled that fateful day with striking clarity, the moment he entered their shared apartment and found Isabella entwined with another man, his fiercest rival in the industry. Each charming deception, every vow, had simply served as instruments for her to draw near to him and exploit him. In that instant, Oliver understood that love was an indulgence, a pursuit he was no longer inclined to engage in. Every action he took was executed with meticulous care. His heart had become cold, and his thoughts were consumed solely by figures and agreements. Yet, the captivating realm of the privileged would not permit Oliver to remain concealed indefinitely. And then, the pivotal wager unfolded. The opulent gala at the Ritz Hotel assembled the city's most affluent and influential individuals. Amidst the vibrant melodies and shimmering lights, Oliver maintained his characteristic composure and aloofness. Though he found little pleasure in these gatherings, they served as valuable chances to broaden his professional connections. Next to him, Michael Donovan, his old university buddy, took a sip of his drink and flashed a smirk. "Alex, are you really going to maintain that serious expression throughout the evening? Embrace the joy of life more fully." Oliver swirled his whiskey, his voice deep and steady, exuding a sense of detachment. "I appreciate it in my unique manner." Michael's lips curled, his eyes sparkling with mischief as he gestured towards the far end of the hall, where a group of young women were laughing and chatting. Among them, a woman with chestnut hair captured attention, her striking blue eyes glimmering under the lights, radiating a blend of charm and wild spirit. "Evelyn Carter," Michael said with deliberation, observing Oliver's response. "She's the bane of the elite, the untamed heiress that the tabloids can't resist pursuing." Oliver cast a fleeting glance her way, his face a mask of inscrutability. "What does it matter?" Michael arched an eyebrow, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "I challenge you to transform her into an ideal lady within 3 months." Oliver placed his glass on the table, a sly grin playing at the edges of his mouth. "What if I choose to?" $2 million, Michael replied with an effortless confidence, his eyes daring anyone to question him. Oliver understood he was entering a perilous arena, yet a part of him felt compelled by the thrill of the challenge. To him, Evelyn was nothing more than a piece in a larger game, simply a transaction. If he triumphed, he would demonstrate that there was nothing beyond his grasp. "Deal," Oliver declared with conviction, finalizing a wager that would transform his life in unimaginable ways. Evelyn Carter watched quietly from her spot in the room. She had grown accustomed to the piercing stares and hushed murmurs that enveloped her. Being the sole daughter of an esteemed lineage, she had cultivated a reputation as a genuine maverick. Unceasing celebrations, lavish retail adventures, and wild dashes in high-performance vehicles. All was an artfully designed illusion, hiding a harsh reality beneath. Ever since her mother's death, Evelyn found herself residing in a frigid mansion alongside her detached father and a cunning stepmother. They had never genuinely cared for her, viewing her merely as a means to enhance their fortune, and now her father was compelling her into a union with a man twice her age for monetary benefit. In search of liberation, Evelyn felt a spark of possibility when Oliver's cold stare locked onto hers, hinting at an unexpected avenue for her escape. Marrying Oliver might be her sole escape from the confines of the arranged marriage. Though she had her doubts about love, this arrangement could very well be her rescue. A week later, in Oliver's opulent penthouse, Evelyn sat opposite him, her demeanor serene. A carefully crafted marriage contract rested on the table between them. 3 months? Evelyn raised an eyebrow with a hint of mischief. So what comes next for me? A substantial amount of money that would allow you to live independently, Oliver replied with conviction, his tone completely neutral. Evelyn wore a sly grin. It seems we have reached an agreement. As she signed the contract, Oliver observed the graceful flow of her signature, and it dawned on him that the true challenge was only starting. The Grand Imperial Hotel, celebrated for its opulent gatherings in London, shone with unparalleled grandeur this evening. Every corner of the grand hall was graced with white flowers, massive crystal chandeliers glittered above, and the gentle strains of violins floated through the atmosphere. The long, artfully set tables beckoned to the city's distinguished guests, who shared looks of curiosity and intrigue. The union of Oliver Whitmore, the youthful heir to the expansive Whitmore real estate fortune, and Evelyn Carter, the infamous affluent socialite celebrated for her defiant ways, had captivated public interest for weeks on end. Despite the couple's lack of outward affection, it was clear to all that their union was based on practicality rather than romance. Oliver stood resolutely at the ceremonial altar, impeccably attired in a timeless black tuxedo. His face was a mask of neutrality, his intense stare locked onto the woman as she approached him with measured steps. Evelyn, draped in a stunning mermaid-style wedding gown crafted by a celebrated designer, possessed eyes as profound as the sea, betraying a hidden sorrow she struggled to conceal. Amidst the shimmering lights, her beauty seemed otherworldly, yet it was undeniable that the same woman who had captivated tabloids with her myriad of scandalous adventures was now entering a marriage that neither she nor the groom genuinely wished for. Amidst the attendees, murmurs danced through the atmosphere. She serves merely as an ornamental addition to Oliver's life. This has to be a preordained union. Who truly thinks they are in love? Evelyn caught the whispers, yet she chose to remain unfazed. As she strolled down the aisle adorned with blossoms, her mind was solely focused on finding a way out of the marriage her father and stepmother had orchestrated with someone else. Oliver represented her sole escape, despite her awareness that his decision to marry her stemmed from a trivial wager. As their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passed between them, revealing the truth hidden within their gazes. This was merely a transaction, devoid of any affection. The officiant's voice resonated with gravity, but his words were received with a chilling lack of interest. "Do you accept this woman as your wife?" Oliver responded without a moment's pause, "I do." "And do you, Miss Carter, accept this man as your husband?" A subtle smirk played on Evelyn's lips, her voice imbued with a chilling calmness. "I certainly do." There was neither a romantic kiss nor an affectionate squeeze of hands. Oliver placed the luxurious diamond ring onto Evelyn's slender finger, executing the act with the meticulousness of someone completing a duty rather than making a vow for eternity. As the reception began, Oliver engaged in discussions with colleagues, while Evelyn found herself surrounded by strangers. She cradled a glass of champagne, savoring each sip as she presented strained smiles to the watchful eyes around her. She understood that she was merely a dazzling ornament, a means for Oliver to showcase his ability to mold a wild heiress into an ideal spouse. For Oliver, this was merely another challenge to conquer. Following the lengthy reception, Oliver and Evelyn made their way back to Whitmore Mansion, the imposing estate looming like a frigid fortress by the Thames River, its golden lights shimmering on the water like scattered fragments of long-forgotten memories. As Evelyn entered the honeymoon suite, she absorbed the carefully curated surroundings. White roses, fragrant candles, and delicate silk curtains cascading gracefully, all contributing to an ambience of irresistible charm. Yet to her, it all seemed empty, lacking in warmth or significance. She lingered by the window, her eyes fixed on the breathtaking London skyline. Adorned in a flowing white silk gown, her ethereal shoulders shimmered beneath the gentle illumination, as though they could dissolve with the faintest caress. As she moved, Oliver relaxed his tie, his gaze tracing her every action, filled with a blend of intrigue and an indefinable emotion. At last, he shattered the quiet, his voice resonant and tinged with an undeniable sense of ownership. "Shall we begin to embody the characters of husband and wife?" Evelyn turned, her intense gaze locking onto his assessing stare. A frigid smile danced upon her lips, lacking any warmth. This position is for a duration of 3 months. Correct? She responded, her voice laced with a sense of rebellion. Oliver approached with a confident smirk, each step measured and intentional. His hand rose, brushing against her cheek, sensing the smoothness of her skin and the cool distance hidden behind her composed demeanor. He had steeled himself to take on a daring socialite, a woman he thought was well-versed in opulence and excess. As he approached, Evelyn instinctively stepped back, her eyes reflecting a blend of defiance and an unspoken emotion. Derision. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding," she said gently, her voice steady and compelling enough to cause Oliver to hesitate. His brow arched in intrigue, a rare display of curiosity piercing through his typically composed demeanor. "Well, go ahead and astonish me." Evelyn maintained his gaze, the depths of her blue eyes steady, revealing no trace of fear or hesitation. "What sort of woman do you believe I am, Oliver? An effortless victory, perhaps?" Her question was incisive, slicing through his pride with precision. For a fleeting moment, Oliver found himself momentarily surprised, yet he concealed it expertly. Evelyn stepped back once more, establishing a measured distance, yet the glimmer of hurt in her eyes did not go unnoticed by him. "I've always been my own, and I'm not as simple as you might believe." The revelation struck Oliver with the force of a blow, unleashing a torrent of disbelief that shattered his meticulously built understanding. His hands, poised to unfasten his shirt cuffs, halted in midair. Evelyn remained untouched. It was the final surprise from the woman whose name was perpetually associated with extravagant gatherings and sensational gossip. An oppressive quiet enveloped the space between them. Evelyn noticed the glimmer of skepticism in his face, and she took advantage of the opportunity, her lips twisting into a smirk laced with irony. Feeling let down, Oliver held his silence, observing her with a focus that charged the atmosphere around them with a palpable tension. He had profoundly miscalculated her, and that awareness pierced him deeper than he was willing to acknowledge. "I believed you had more sense than this," Evelyn pressed on, her tone tinged with a mix of resentment and a fragile honesty she struggled to conceal. Oliver's lips quirked, a hint of frustration bubbling just below his composed facade. He found it difficult to accept being mistaken, particularly when it came to understanding others. He stepped back, his voice softened, filled with thoughtfulness. "So what made you say yes to marrying me?" Evelyn folded her arms, her gaze sparkling with a mix of irony and acceptance. "As I sought refuge from the life my father and stepmother had orchestrated for me." She hesitated, her expression growing somber. "You may not have been the preferred option, but at least you weren't as dreadful as the one they selected for me." Oliver experienced a sudden flicker of annoyance. He had never viewed himself as a fallback for anyone, much less a mere escape route. His pride flared at the mere idea. The atmosphere thickened, each word lingering like a heavy mist. Evelyn paused, her body frozen in place for what felt like an eternity, before she finally turned away, a subtle tremor coursing through her shoulders. Still, she held onto her composed facade, leaving Oliver to grapple with a storm of thoughts. He observed her disappearing silhouette, experiencing for the first time a sense of having relinquished control over a scenario he believed he could steer. Evelyn was a formidable challenge, not just a simple ornament he could mold to his desires. She was an enigma, a puzzle he had not foreseen, and that rendered her even more perilous to him. Oliver took a deep breath, resting against the smooth marble wall, his dark eyes gazing up at the ceiling. The wedding night unfolded in a manner that was far from his expectations. Rather than a simple win, he stood at the brink of a complex chessboard, where Evelyn was not merely a pawn, but a powerful queen in her own right. Evelyn gazed out at the twinkling city lights, a silent vow forming within her that no one, not even Oliver Whitmore, would ever hold the power to dictate her life so effortlessly. Immediately following the wedding, the Whitmore estate, a stunning mansion perched by the banks of the Thames, transformed into the setting where Evelyn needed to adjust to her new existence. The stunning classical architecture, majestic walls embellished with invaluable oil paintings, and infinite corridors that seemed like an unending labyrinth. Everything felt excessively perfect, overly orderly, and unnaturally silent, creating a sharp contrast to the lively and tumultuous existence she was accustomed to. Evelyn experienced a sensation akin to being confined within an opulent, ornate cage, where the notion of freedom lingered just beyond her reach, a mere figment of her imagination. Every aspect of the estate functioned with precision, from the carefully crafted meals to the afternoon tea served punctually. The household staff moved with an eerie quietness, each action executed with meticulous precision, while Oliver, her husband, stood at the heart of it all. There was no need for him to elevate his tone. A solitary, frigid look was sufficient to guarantee complete obedience. Evelyn had always been averse to constraints, and this union was no different. She kept capturing attention in the tabloids with her late-night escapades, relentless shopping sprees, and exhilarating drives in her luxury sports car, all while oblivious to the cold glares of Oliver observing her from afar. She intentionally stirred him up, probing his patience to discover the boundaries of his tolerance. Yet Oliver remained steadfast against her provocations. He embodied discipline, consistently exhibiting an unsettling tranquility amidst her defiant behavior. Whenever she stumbled back home inebriated or became embroiled in yet another controversy, he would quietly take his place in the library, peruse the sensational headlines, and then silently fold the newspaper, offering no words of criticism. The cold, detached silence was what frustrated Evelyn the most. Yet beneath the surface, Oliver started to perceive a shift in his so-called rebellious wife. She held depths that were not immediately visible, an unexpected complexity he had not foreseen. One evening, as he wandered through the estate, Oliver unexpectedly glimpsed Evelyn in the kitchen, discreetly passing a bundle of cash to the housekeeper. Her voice was gentle, yet each word resonated with an uncommon authenticity. "This is for your child's tuition fees this year. I would appreciate it if you could keep this between us, all right?" The housekeeper gazed at Evelyn, her eyes filled with profound appreciation, yet Evelyn merely returned a soft smile before looking away, as though her actions held little importance. Oliver lingered quietly behind the door, observing all that unfolded without disclosing his existence. On a different occasion, he stumbled upon Evelyn in conversation with the butler regarding the donation of a substantial number of warm coats and shoes to an orphanage, all under the guise of a friend who preferred to stay anonymous. Evelyn never craved acknowledgement or praise for her actions. She executed them with a quiet grace, as though they were an instinctive part of her being. What caught Oliver off guard the most was one late night when he noticed Evelyn's car arriving in a dilapidated neighborhood on the city's south side. She neither entered a lavish bar nor participated in an exclusive event. Instead, she silently exited her vehicle, clutching bags brimming with food and cozy blankets, which she distributed to those in need on the streets. In the soft glow of the streetlights, she knelt quietly, absorbing their tales, her deep blue eyes brimming with heartfelt understanding. From afar, Oliver sensed an unusual feeling awakening inside him. It turned out that Evelyn was not the self-centered socialite he had always believed her to be. She possessed hidden depths, filled with kindness and compassion, which she never felt the need to reveal to the outside world. Slowly, Oliver's curiosity evolved into an enigmatic feeling, one that eluded his understanding. He began to observe her more closely, taking note of the subtle nuances he had once ignored. Evelyn, the woman he had once regarded as merely an ornament in their unremarkable bed, had transformed into an enigma that captivated his gaze. The atmosphere at the mansion during the evenings started to shift gradually. The previously quiet dinners, heavy with unspoken tension, transformed into moments of brief yet increasingly frequent exchanges. Oliver frequently discovered Evelyn by the window, immersed in her quiet sketches of the city's nocturnal beauty. At times, he would take a seat next to her, enveloped in silence. Their mutual silence held no animosity, no walls, merely a tacit comprehension that neither could articulate. Evelyn, as well, observed the change in Oliver's eyes. He no longer regarded her with icy indifference, but with a glimmer of something gentler, something she struggled to articulate. His focus was no longer a requirement. It seemed authentic, as if he was starting to perceive her from a fresh perspective. Still, she remained vigilant, hesitant to accept that their union was anything beyond a fleeting arrangement, a contest she couldn't afford to lose. One evening, as they encountered each other in the library, Oliver finally shattered the persistent silence that hung between them. "What compels you to carry out these actions in silence, without informing anyone?" he inquired. Evelyn halted, placing the book gently on the surface before her. A subtle, nearly playful smile danced upon her lips. She replied simply, stating that recognition was not something she sought. "Assisting others gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment." Oliver gazed at her intently, an unusual sensation awakening within him. For the first time, he understood that Evelyn was far from the superficial, impulsive figure the tabloids had depicted her as. She possessed layers, concealed scars, and a profound solitude nestled deep inside her. Above all, she was unlike anyone he had ever encountered. Somewhere along the way, Oliver discovered that he no longer perceived Evelyn as a puzzle to solve. Instead, she had transformed into a mystery he yearned to unravel. A woman whose charm lay not in her dazzling looks, but in the depth and intricacy of her spirit. And it occurred to him that maybe their marriage was more complex than he had previously believed. Their union, initially perceived as merely a straightforward agreement, started to evolve in nuanced ways that neither party fully comprehended. Oliver discovered that he was increasingly captivated by the nuances of Evelyn's presence. He realized that her presence in the mansion did more than just stir up chaos. It infused his otherwise dull existence with a vibrant energy. Prior to Evelyn's arrival, the mansion existed merely as an impressive yet soulless edifice. Yet, the echoes of laughter, the sporadic disputes, and her bold glances infused a vibrant energy into the atmosphere. Evelyn began to perceive Oliver from a fresh perspective. He turned out to be less frigid and merciless than she had previously believed. Despite keeping his distance, a subtle worry lingered in his gaze that she found impossible to overlook. Amidst the chaos of journalists hurling harsh questions, Oliver emerged, grasping her hand and guiding her away with unwavering determination, protecting her from the prying eyes of the crowd. The ambience of the mansion shifted subtly as the evenings unfolded. At first, their dialogues consisted solely of courteous interactions. As time went on, they started to reveal fragments of their history. Evelyn shared with Oliver the story of her mother, a kind-hearted woman who had left this world when Evelyn was still a child, leaving her to navigate the coldness of an uncaring father and a stepmother whose only concern was for riches. For the first time, Oliver revealed his own scars, the sorrow of his past romance with Isabella, a love that once appeared flawless but ultimately concluded in treachery. Evelyn noticed the anguish reflected in his gaze as he recounted the experience, and she understood that hidden beneath his calm facade was a heart that had yet to mend. Their bond didn't flourish through extravagant displays of affection, but rather through the subtle nuances of their everyday existence. One afternoon, following a tense business meeting, Oliver entered the library and discovered Evelyn deeply absorbed in an economics book, a subject he never imagined would capture her attention. Lost in her thoughts, she quietly pondered, "Why doesn't he put his money into social housing projects? I believe it would be a wise decision." Oliver found himself smiling, a peculiar sense of amusement washing over him. The girl he had assumed was solely interested in parties, and shopping possessed a depth of insight he had never anticipated. Their dinners together, once tinged with obligation, slowly evolved into something more effortless. Evelyn began to relish the dishes crafted by the chef, occasionally playfully engaging with her food, while Oliver merely observed, discovering that he was more captivated by her than by his own tasks. They started to wander softly through the garden under the glow of the moon. Evelyn would enthusiastically highlight various flowers, conveying their significance and the reasons they held a special place in her heart. Initially, Oliver simply absorbed the sounds around him. Yet before long, he discovered that these instances enveloped him in a tranquility he had never experienced prior. One day, an unforeseen rainstorm surprised them, prompting them to find refuge beneath the porch. Evelyn, her hair drenched, laughed joyfully, extending her hands to embrace the falling raindrops. Oliver observed her, a strange tenderness beginning to fill his expression. "Isn't this thrilling?" She chuckled, her eyes glinting with playful intrigue. Oliver's voice was softer than normal as he responded, "Perhaps it's the first time I've seen rain as something so beautiful." Evelyn halted, her heart fluttering at his unusual display of genuine emotion. These brief, ephemeral instances slowly drew them nearer. Evelyn gradually let her guard down around Oliver, becoming more attuned to him and slowly grasping the tranquility that enveloped him. More significantly, she started to understand how he quietly shielded her from the cruel murmurs of the world around them. For Oliver, what had begun as a simple exchange had evolved into something much more profound. He discovered a depth of concern for Evelyn that took him by surprise. At times, a mere smile from her could ease the weight of his tiring day, bringing a touch of brightness to his weary spirit. Affection didn't burst forth in a whirlwind of excitement, but instead blossomed in the gentle nuances of life, through whispered exchanges under the stars, fleeting looks that spoke volumes, and serene pauses in the garden where silence was more eloquent than speech, allowing them to connect on a deeper level. Evelyn Carter and Oliver Whitmore, two individuals weighed down by their histories, were gradually weaving themselves into the fabric of each other's existence. The union of Evelyn and Oliver, once on the path to tranquility, now faced the looming shadows of hidden turmoil lurking just out of sight. Evelyn's stepmother and Oliver's former lover, Isabella, had united in a scheme to dismantle the delicate connection they shared. On a breezy afternoon, Evelyn reclined in a luxurious armchair by the window of the elegant living room, a cigarette hanging casually between her fingers. Delicate tendrils of smoke spiraled upward, crafting ethereal designs that vanished almost as soon as they graced the atmosphere. Her gaze wandered across the city streets below, seemingly aloof and unconcerned with her surroundings, until the distinct sound of heels clicked sharply against the polished wooden floor. Her stepmother walked in, a thick envelope held delicately in her impeccably manicured hands. She set it down on the table, a knowing smirk playing on her lips, her eyes sparkling with a concealed wickedness. "Evelyn, do you genuinely believe this union is centered around love?" Her voice flowed like silk, a gentle whisper that held an edge capable of piercing through Evelyn's carefully crafted mask. Evelyn released a plume of smoke, her emerald eyes darting to her stepmother with an air of nonchalant rebellion. She swung one leg over the other, her demeanor effortlessly relaxed, as if none of it held any significance. "Once more, we find ourselves at this juncture. Another lecture, is it?" She spoke slowly, her voice heavy with disinterest. "Keep it brief. I must attend a significant meeting shortly." Her stepmother, unperturbed, elegantly drew out a chair and settled in across from her. With a veneer of false compassion, she pushed the envelope toward Evelyn, her smile tinged with a subtle sense of victory. "I simply wish for you to recognize the reality, my dear. Do not allow yourself to be misled by hollow fantasies." Evelyn looked at the envelope, then let out a quiet laugh, tapping the cigarette against the edge of her half-full wineglass. Allow me to take a wild guess. What lies within? A formal agreement? A letter of extortion? Or maybe some shocking images?" Her voice dripped with sarcasm, yet beneath the surface, a hint of discomfort began to emerge. Her stepmother remained silent, merely observing with that maddening smirk. The stillness enveloped Evelyn, constricting her throat with an unyielding grip. She grabbed the envelope and carelessly spilled its contents onto the table. As her gaze fell upon the photos, the playful smirk that once graced her lips gradually vanished. In a refined restaurant, Oliver and Isabella found themselves seated side by side. The closeness in their gestures was unmistakable. Oliver leaned in slightly, while Isabella rested her head on his shoulder, her fingers grazing his wrist in a manner that hinted at familiarity and something more profound. Evelyn felt a sharp pang in her chest. She lifted a photograph, examining each nuance, hunting for something, anything that might challenge the undeniable reality before her. Yet it was unmistakably evident. Her grip tightened around the edges of the pictures, and for a brief instant, the facade of indifference shattered. She had permitted herself to think, even if only slightly, that Oliver had started to have feelings for her. Now everything felt like a wicked jest. Her stepmother shrugged, her voice dripping with insincere compassion. Oliver was never really yours, Evelyn. You're merely a fleeting diversion for him. If you possess intelligence, you'll understand the appropriate course of action. Evelyn reclined in the chair, her head tilted as she scrutinized her stepmother, a spark of defiance shining in her eyes. What do you propose, dear mother? Is it time to shed tears and flee? I apologize if this isn't what you were hoping for, but that's not who I am. She managed to smile, yet her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. With a soft chuckle, her stepmother stood up from her chair. She rested a dismissive hand on Evelyn's shoulder, a concluding act of superiority. Act as you please, Evelyn. Simply avoid allowing yourself to become overly sorrowful. With that, she pivoted gracefully and strode away, a delicate hint of luxurious fragrance lingering in her wake. Evelyn remained motionless for a moment, her gaze fixed vacantly on the stack of photographs in front of her. The carefully constructed facade of indifference started to fall apart. Her fingers quivered gently as she ran them over the picture of Oliver gazing at Isabella, a softness in his expression that she had never experienced aimed at her. Recently, he seemed to withdraw, staying late at work, skipping meals, and overlooking her attempts to reach out. She had persuaded herself it was merely a professional matter, that Oliver was simply the aloof, unfeeling man he had always been. However, everything has finally come together. The quiet hours, the stillness, the void. A harsh chuckle slipped from her mouth. The audacious, free-spirited Evelyn Carter had surprisingly permitted herself to embrace the notion of something as naive as love. She shook her head, filling her glass with more wine, and gulped it down in a single motion, wishing the alcohol would numb the pain in her heart. Yet, not even the strongest drink could wipe away the vivid picture of Oliver and Isabella that had etched itself into her thoughts. She stood up suddenly, drawing aside the thick curtains to take in the stunning city skyline, the shimmering glow of London, the ceaseless flow of humanity. Everything continued to progress, yet she found herself ensnared at a junction with no clear path ahead. She clutched the curtain with a fierce intensity, her breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. She understood that a decision lay before her, yet she questioned whether she possessed the courage to leave everything behind. As she reached for her phone, Evelyn's fingers lingered above Oliver's contact, contemplating her next move. She paused, her thumb hovering uncertainly above the screen, before releasing a soft, bitter sigh and flinging the phone onto the couch. If Oliver genuinely cared, he would need to demonstrate it on his own. For her, maybe it was time to depart, much like a tempest that could not be subdued by anyone. As Evelyn wrestled with the chaos within her heart, Oliver confronted a much more concrete danger. Isabella had come back not just to interfere with his marriage, but she had also aimed her ambitions at his career. One late evening, as Oliver immersed himself in his tasks at the office, Isabella arrived unexpectedly, her keen eyes scanning the room with an intensity that suggested she was on the hunt. It's time for a conversation, Alex. She took a seat uninvited, pushing a hefty folder across the desk in his direction. If you wish to prevent your company from falling apart, you understand the necessary steps to take. Oliver opened the folder, his expression a blank canvas as he quickly glanced through the contents. Isabella had skillfully attracted numerous influential figures to her camp, crafting a financial turmoil that threatened to topple Whitmore Enterprises. Yet, what truly sent a chill down his spine was the subtle menace directed at Evelyn. If you wish to keep your beloved wife safe from any unfortunate incidents in the near future, I recommend you consider your actions thoughtfully. Isabella's voice was laced with bitterness, her eyes shadowed by a deep-seated hostility. Oliver tightened his fists, battling to maintain his calm. He was well aware of Isabella's nature. She never issued hollow threats. Whispers of a significant investor withdrawing from the company had already started to spread, creating unease among the shareholders. The tension was escalating, and Oliver stood at a pivotal juncture, torn between the fate of his company and the desire to safeguard the woman who had unexpectedly captured his heart. The moment of crisis arrived when a key investor unexpectedly declared their exit from an essential project, creating a ripple of turmoil throughout the organization. The financial reports revealed a bleak scenario, with stocks nosediving, crimson numbers illuminating the screens, and urgent meetings extending into the late hours. Oliver seemed to inhabit his office, battling relentlessly to secure the legacy his family had crafted through the years. Endless nights without rest transformed into his routine, the burden of duty bearing down on him more heavily than ever. Even with his attempts to protect Evelyn from the turmoil, the widening gap between them was evident. Oliver's absence from home, his late-night phone calls, and the relentless exhaustion etched into his features all contributed to Evelyn's mounting uncertainty. With each day that went by, she couldn't help but wonder if the whispers of her stepmother held any truth. Evelyn's mounting uncertainties were only intensified by Oliver's widening gap. The hurtful words of her stepmother now felt more believable than they ever had before. Oliver had grown increasingly aloof, creating an emotional chasm between them, and the solitary meals in the expansive mansion left her feeling like little more than a mere ornament. She started to wonder if she was merely a pawn in his elaborate design, as her stepmother had so harshly implied. One afternoon, seeking a breath of fresh air and a reprieve from her swirling thoughts, Evelyn stumbled upon a serene cafe nestled by the roadside. While she absent-mindedly sipped her coffee, she caught snippets of a hushed yet fervent discussion among a group of Whitmore employees at a nearby table. The conversation revolved around the precarious condition of the company, the imminent danger of bankruptcy, and Oliver's unwavering determination to find a financial remedy. Evelyn's heart raced as she caught the words, "If we don't secure new investment within a week, we're all out of jobs." Their resonance lingered in her thoughts, cycling endlessly like an unyielding rhythm. She remained still, the vibrant sounds of the city fading into a soft murmur as the truth struck her with the force of a lightning bolt. Oliver's distance didn't stem from weariness with her or from the bets she had long suspected. He was engaged in a quiet battle to safeguard his business, to shield countless workers. A surge of remorse enveloped Evelyn, constricting her chest with a relentless hold. She was so consumed by her own insecurities and doubts that she overlooked the weight Oliver was carrying. She remembered the endless nights he dedicated to his work, the weariness marked on his features, and the quiet gazes she had misinterpreted as apathy. Yet now all the pieces fell into place seamlessly. He was battling, striving, and he had faced it all by himself. Her fingers quivered as she gripped the edge of the chair, striving to find stability amidst the torrent of feelings surging within her. She had misjudged him, allowing her insecurities to obscure her perspective, and she abandoned him when he needed her the most. For an eternity, Evelyn had thought of herself as the most solitary soul on the planet. Yet at this moment, she understood that Oliver's isolation ran just as deep. He felt the solitude that came with duty, the burden of expectations pressing heavily upon him. With a steadying breath, her determination solidified. She could no longer remain passive, not from a sense of duty or remorse, but because her feelings ran deep, unmistakably. The man she once believed she loathed had, unbeknownst to her, etched a space in her heart. She understood the path she needed to take. It was time to demonstrate to everyone, and to herself, that she was more than just a carefree socialite, a young woman with no ambition beyond transient delights. Evelyn chose to invest the inheritance her mother had bequeathed to her, a pristine fortune she had always protected, to rescue Oliver's company. Not due to a necessity for assistance, but rather because she yearned to be his quiet support, mirroring the ways he had unknowingly been hers. With a surge of resolve, Evelyn departed the cafe, her strides confident, her eyes steady. The uncertainties and anxieties that once haunted her had vanished, supplanted by a clear resolve to support Oliver and confront whatever challenges lay ahead side by side. Without a second to spare, she made her way back to the Whitmore estate, directing her steps toward her study. As she sifted through her financial records, her gaze fell upon the considerable fortune her mother had bequeathed. The money served as a constant reminder of her past, a symbol of the love she once cherished, and she had never dared to touch it, honoring both her memories and her yearning. However, it may now fulfill a more significant role. Evelyn lifted the phone, her tone steady and determined as she conversed with her attorney. Allocate a substantial part of my inheritance to Whitmore Group. I need it completed right away without any holdups. The lawyer paused briefly, evidently taken aback by her unexpected engagement in weighty financial issues. Evelyn was renowned for her extravagant expenditures, but her business savvy was seldom acknowledged. Yet she merely smiled at his uncertainty, her voice steady as she pressed on. This is a well-considered choice. I am fully aware of my actions. On that particular night, the funds were successfully transferred. Evelyn chose not to inform Oliver. She understood that he would resist her assistance, and she was perfectly fine with that. This transcended his pride and her need for validation. It was about existing in the background, serving as the quiet support he could rely on without even being aware of it. As she gazed through the window at the shadowy city skyline, Evelyn permitted herself a faint smile. After a lengthy period, she experienced a sense of purpose, realizing she was engaged in something significant, not solely for him, but for their shared journey. The following day at the Whitmore Group headquarters, the news of the enigmatic investment circulated rapidly through the various departments. Oliver sat in the boardroom with the senior shareholders, his expression steady as ever, yet a glimmer of astonishment flickered in his eyes. A significant amount had recently been deposited into the Ailing Project Fund, sufficient to maintain operations for the upcoming months and potentially assist in reworking their business approach. You've truly surpassed all expectations, Oliver. An older shareholder remarked, nodding approvingly. I didn't expect you to secure such a large investment in such a short time. Oliver's fingers tightened into fists under the table, his thoughts swirling with uncertainty. He was certain that a new investor had not yet materialized, and this money could not have simply emerged from nowhere. The prompt action of the investment had rescued Whitmore Group from the edge of disaster. Significant initiatives were revitalized, investor trust was restored, and the market gradually began to exhibit signs of resurgence. As the company found its footing, Oliver grappled with a singular, urgent question. Who orchestrated this enigmatic investment? He meticulously sifted through every financial record and reached out to potential partners, but no leads emerged. The sole remnant was a signature E. Carter. It simply couldn't be Evelyn, he mused. To him, she remained the wild socialite, indifferent to matters of finance or business. Still, an insistent thought lingered in the recesses of his mind. Could it truly be her? Meanwhile, Isabella was consumed by fury upon realizing that her scheme to destroy Oliver had collapsed. She had misjudged Evelyn, a grave error indeed. Even more troubling, Oliver had not left his wife, which profoundly hurt Isabella's sense of pride. In a moment of intense emotion, she resolved to pursue a more extreme course of action. On a late evening, following a charity event, Evelyn found herself returning to the Whitmore estate when, out of nowhere, a speeding truck abruptly swerved into her lane from the oncoming traffic. Reaction was impossible. The truck slammed into the side of her car, causing it to whirl violently into the guardrail. All unfolded in an instant. The vehicle overturned, fragments of glass strewn about, while crimson droplets ran down Evelyn's ashen visage. As she slipped into darkness, a singular thought lingered in her mind. Oliver's grin. In the hospital, Oliver sat quietly next to Evelyn's bed, his typically calm exterior broken. Her face was eerily pale, a deep gash on her forehead sharply contrasting with her otherwise unblemished skin. He extended his hand toward hers, his own quaking with a blend of apprehension and remorse. What have you done to yourself, Evelyn? He murmured, his tone heavy with feeling. In recent days, he found himself entirely absorbed in his tasks, grappling with the financial turmoil instigated by Isabella. Yet here he was, beside Evelyn's lifeless form, and Oliver understood just how trivial the company felt in the face of her presence. The door let out a soft creak as George, his assistant, stepped inside, clutching a hefty file. His expression was taut, his eyes brimming with a sense of urgency. Mr. Whitmore, there's something important you should be aware of, George stated, setting the file down on the table. Oliver flipped through the pages swiftly, his keen eyes locking onto the name of the new investor, Evelyn Carter. His breath hitched, and his grip on the papers tightened as each transaction, every financial trail, laid bare the undeniable truth. Evelyn was the one who had rescued his company. This can't be, Oliver murmured, memories rushing back to him. Her weary eyes when he returned home late, the disappointment that danced across her face as he pulled away. George cleared his throat, his voice measured and careful. Mrs. Whitmore executed the investment via a discreet financial trust. She preferred to keep it a secret from you. Oliver's hands quivered as he grasped the documents. She devoted herself entirely, seeking no acknowledgement in return. The epiphany crashed over him like a mighty surge, swelling his heart with a mix of anguish and an all-encompassing affection. He softly tucked a strand of hair behind Evelyn's ear, his voice low and laced with remorse and affection. What prompted you to act on my behalf without uttering a single word? I've been utterly oblivious, Evelyn. I failed to recognize that you were consistently by my side. Every barrier he had constructed, every feeling he had suppressed, loomed on the brink of eruption. In his relentless pursuit of battling Isabella, he had overlooked the one individual who genuinely held affection for him. Gazing at Evelyn's delicate form, Oliver experienced a profound ache that was unlike anything he had ever felt before. He allowed her to feel isolated, leaving her submerged in uncertainties and insecurities, while she quietly remained by his side, shielding him in ways he could never have envisioned. I apologize, Evelyn. Kindly awaken. He leaned in, gently placing a tender kiss on her icy hand. Even in her unconscious state, Oliver held onto one truth with unwavering conviction. He was determined to hold onto her this time, no matter what. From this moment forward, he was resolute in his commitment to safeguard and treasure her with all that he possessed. As Oliver sat beside Evelyn's hospital bed, observing her still form, a blaze of anger surged within him. He couldn't simply remain passive while the woman he cherished endured pain. He had to intervene. The occurrence was far too coincidental to be mere happenstance. Isabella had always been merciless, and this time Oliver realized she had gone too far. George, I need you to carry out a comprehensive inquiry into Evelyn's accident, Oliver stated, his tone icy and precise. Examine all traffic cameras for any discrepancies. I must uncover the identity of the one who had the audacity to do this. George nodded with unwavering certainty. He understood that Oliver was sincere in every word he spoke. In a matter of hours, details began to emerge. The team of private investigators that Oliver engaged revealed vital evidence. A concealed security camera from a nearby street recorded footage of a dubious black car following Evelyn's vehicle just moments prior to the accident. The license plate was swiftly linked to a rental company, revealing that the individual who had signed the lease was none other than Isabella. Oliver's jaw tightened, his eyes deepening with rage. This time, she had crossed a line, and he was determined not to overlook it. I seek concrete proof to ensure she faces justice. George promptly collected witness statements from individuals in the vicinity of the scene. A man without a home had witnessed the dark car speeding toward Evelyn's vehicle and, by chance, managed to jot down the license plate number on a scrap of paper. Armed with all the evidence, Oliver moved forward without a moment's doubt. He promptly reached out to his legal team and notified the police to commence a formal investigation. That morning, as Isabella savored her opulent breakfast at an upscale hotel, she was taken aback when a group of police officers suddenly entered. Her complexion drained of color as she caught sight of Oliver entering with the officers. He stood tall, his gaze as frigid as the winter's breath. Did you honestly believe I wouldn't uncover the reality? His voice sliced through the air with a sharp precision. Isabella tried to keep her poise, yet the cold authority and underlying resentment in Oliver's gaze caused her to waver. Oliver, could you clarify what you mean? I find myself perplexed. She pretended to be unaware, yet the moment had passed her by. One of the officers advanced and announced the arrest warrant with clarity. Isabella Grayson, you are hereby taken into custody for the charges of attempted homicide and conspiracy to inflict serious bodily harm. It is your prerogative to choose silence, yet be aware that any statement you make may be utilized against you in a legal setting. Isabella let out a piercing scream, her efforts to break free proving futile as the officers secured the handcuffs around her wrists. She faced Oliver, a tempest of desperation and anger flickering in her gaze. This is unacceptable. We cherished one another, Alex. Oliver moved in, locking his gaze onto her treacherous eyes. Love, he derided. Once, my heart was yours, but that affection faded the moment you chose betrayal. At this point, you have become nothing more than a despicable lawbreaker. As the authorities escorted Isabella away, Oliver remained motionless, his heart weighed down with sorrow. He understood that the conflict was not completely resolved. Yet there was a sense of relief knowing that the individual who harmed Evelyn would at last confront the repercussions of their actions. Once he had secured Isabella's prosecution, Oliver promptly made his way back to the hospital. He settled beside Evelyn's bed, grasping her hand firmly as he whispered, "Can you hear me, Evelyn? I discovered the individual responsible for everything that has transpired. You are secure at this moment." His voice was raspy, imbued with warmth, yet tinged with sorrow. He came to understand that his feelings for her ran deeper than he had ever allowed himself to acknowledge. Evelyn had sacrificed so much for him, and yet he had allowed her to face peril. A solitary tear traced its way down Oliver's cheek. "I apologize, Evelyn. Kindly, awaken. Allow me the opportunity to rectify the situation." In the gentle glow of the hospital lights, Evelyn's fingers moved ever so slightly. One early morning, as soft sunlight poured through the hospital window, casting a warm glow on Evelyn's pale face, Oliver sat beside her, his eyes tired yet steadfast. His hands stayed firmly clasped around hers, sensing the subtle yet constant rhythm beneath her skin. In an unexpected moment, her delicate fingers shifted ever so slightly. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing Oliver's gaze filled with both concern and affection. For a fleeting moment, the world around her paused, until her fragile voice shattered the stillness. Is that you here?" Oliver paused, his heart racing at the delicate whisper of her voice. His eyes shimmered with unfallen tears, yet he swiftly regained his composure, gently squeezing her hand. "Indeed, I am present. I will always be present." Evelyn attempted a smile, yet her lips quivered. She shut her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to bask in the warmth of his presence. Memories surged forth. The incident, the uncertainties, the pain. Yet now, gazing into his eyes, all the anguish appeared to dissolve. "You're aware now, aren't you?" she murmured, her eyes brimming with sadness, yet no longer shying away from his. Oliver nodded, his voice heavy with feeling yet unwavering. "I understand. You were the one who rescued the company, the one who supported me when I couldn't see the truth." Evelyn offered a subtle smile, even as tears began to gather in her eyes. "I simply wanted to assist you, knowing you might not embrace it if I were to say it directly." Oliver gripped her hand with increasing intensity, his emotions surging within him. Initially, he viewed her merely as a frivolous socialite, yet now he recognized Evelyn for the resilient and caring woman she genuinely was. "I made a mistake, Evelyn. I was so unaware not to confide in you, not to reveal my struggles to you. I apologize for putting the weight of everything on your shoulders alone." Evelyn looked into his eyes, perceiving the honesty, the remorse, and the profound affection he had for her. In that instant, she realized his authenticity. "There was a time when I believed that parting ways was the right decision, yet in my heart, I knew I couldn't go through with it. My heart belongs to you, Oliver." Oliver reached his breaking point. He bent low, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead, tears streaming down without restraint. "I cherish you, Evelyn. I have for quite some time. I simply lacked the bravery to acknowledge it." Evelyn beamed, her gaze sparkling in the dawn's glow. They had faced their share of misunderstandings and heartbreak, yet what truly mattered was their presence together in this moment. Several months passed, and Evelyn was completely healed. During her recovery, Oliver remained by her side without fail. Their love blossomed, unencumbered by secrets or distance that once separated them. Today, Evelyn took the stage at a significant charity event she had been meticulously organizing for months. She exuded grace in a refined gown, transformed from the defiant heiress of yesteryears into a poised, self-reliant woman with resolute determination. As she stepped onto the stage, her gaze instinctively sought him out, and there he stood in the far corner of the room, observing her with a sense of quiet pride. There was no need for him to utter a single word. His smile conveyed a deep message. His eyes sparkled with affection, reverence, and overwhelming pride. Evelyn inhaled deeply, her voice unwavering as she addressed the microphone. Once, I wandered through life feeling adrift, uncertain of where I belonged. However, I've discovered that it is love, trust, and compassion that infuse our existence with true significance. From the audience, Oliver offered her a subtle nod, his heart brimming with joy. In Evelyn, he discovered not merely a wife, but a true partner, an equal and ultimately, the love of his life. On a serene evening, as the London sky was draped in a sparkling tapestry of stars, Oliver guided Evelyn to the quaint garden nestled behind the Whitmore estate. The gentle glow of golden lights bathed the blossoming roses, crafting an utterly enchanting atmosphere. Evelyn stood there, her long hair flowing gently in the evening breeze, her eyes reflecting the remnants of the sorrow she had faced. Oliver looked at her, his heart overflowing with affection and a profound sense of remorse. Evelyn, he finally shattered the stillness, his tone imbued with warmth and sincerity. She pivoted to confront him, her striking blue eyes brimming with intrigue. I made a proposal to you previously, but it was driven by misguided intentions. This evening, I feel compelled to revisit it, but this time, for the sole purpose that holds true significance. Oliver gracefully knelt, retrieving a small red velvet box from his pocket. Within the confines of the room, a diamond ring glimmered brilliantly beneath the soft glow of the moonlight. The coldness had vanished, the obligations were no more, and the bet was behind them. In his gaze, only genuine, heartfelt love lingered. Evelyn Carter, would you consider forgiving me and allowing us another opportunity together? My affection for you is not born from a bet, nor from obligation, but from the essence of your being. Your impact on my life has been beyond my wildest dreams. I desire to be by your side, cherish you, and safeguard you for all my days to come. Evelyn remained motionless, her breath trapped in her throat, tears beginning to gather in her eyes. This time, it's not tears of pain, but tears of joy. She had endured a great deal, faced countless misunderstandings. Yet in this moment, the genuine sincerity of Oliver's words resonated deeply within her. A soft smile graced her lips, embodying joy and a rich tapestry of feelings. Gently, she extended her hand, her voice a blend of tenderness and determination. I embrace this moment, Oliver. Let's begin anew, with genuine affection. Joy illuminated Oliver's expression, and a beaming smile graced his lips as he gently placed the ring on Evelyn's finger. He rose to his feet and enveloped her in his embrace, gripping her firmly, as if making a silent promise to never release her again. I truly appreciate it, Evelyn. Thank you for this opportunity once again. Evelyn leaned her head against his chest, her eyes fluttering shut as she relished the rhythmic thump of his heartbeat and the enveloping warmth of the man she adored. We will confront all challenges side by side. Under the starlit sky, they exchanged a gentle kiss, signifying the dawn of something new. Gone are the facades. The uncertainties have faded away, leaving only authentic affection and optimism for what lies ahead. Their narrative serves as a testament that love transcends mere play or ownership. It embodies understanding and companionship. Regardless of what has come before, individuals always possess the opportunity to transform their lives and discover genuine joy, provided they are ready to strive for it and value what they hold dear. We appreciate your support as we share our journey. Did this tale resonate with you emotionally? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If this brought you pleasure,